Hello there and a very warm welcome. In this explainer for our Access TEFL program, we're going to break down a really modern and frankly incredibly effective approach to teaching English. We're going to map out that crucial journey from just knowing the rules of the language to actually, using it confidently out there in the real world.
Right, so here's our plan. First, we're going to pin down what the ultimate goal of our teaching really is. Then we'll look at how language is put together. After that, we'll dive into a fantastic way of making learning stick, see how that fits into a proper lesson plan, and even walk through a real example before we wrap it all up.
Okay, first things first. Before we get bogged down in the how-to, we absolutely have to get our heads around the why. And that means tackling a bit of a classic problem in language education.
We've all seen this, haven't we? A student can absolutely ace a grammar test, get every question right, but then they go into a cafe and nothing. They just freeze. This shows that enormous gap between knowing about a language and actually being able to use it.
So this is our solution. Our goal, our North Star, is something called communicative competence. It's a huge shift in thinking. We're moving our focus from just getting the grammar perfect to making sure our students can actually communicate what they need to in a way that works in any real-world situation.
So with that goal in mind, let's have a look at how language itself is structured and how we can use that structure to get our students communicating.
A really brilliant way to think about this is to split language into two parts. You've got the language systems. Think of these as the internal mechanics, the tools in your toolbox. And then you've got the language skills, which is what you do with it, the craft you create with those tools.
Okay, so the systems. These are the nuts and bolts, the interlocking gears of the language machine. You've got grammar, the rules of how to build sentences. You've got lexis, all your vocabulary. You've got phonology, the sounds, the pronunciation. And discourse, how it all fits together to make sense. And those systems, those tools, are what power the four main skills. You've got your receptive skills, which is when you're taking language in, so that's your listening and your reading. And then you've got your productive skills, when you're creating language, that's speaking and writing. The systems are basically the engine, and the skills are the car in motion.
Right, so if we're teaching the systems to help our students build their skills, what's the best way to actually do it? How do we make it all stick in their brains?
Well, we're going to step away from the old-school traditional method, the spoon-feeding approach, where the teacher just gives you a rule and you practice it endlessly. Instead, we're going to embrace what's called discovery learning, where we guide the students to figure out the rules for themselves. It's so much more powerful.
And this often follows a really simple but effective little cycle. Observe, hypothesize, experiment. First, students see or hear the language being used in a real context. Then, they have a guess. They form a hypothesis about how that piece of language works. And finally, they test it out. They become little linguistic detectives.
And this quote from the wonderful trainer Joe Gikanga just hits the nail on the head. This is the whole philosophy in a nutshell. It's about getting learners to be actively using the language, not just passively learning about it. That's the game changer.
Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in a real classroom? Well, let me tell you, a professional teacher doesn't just make it up as they go along. They have a blueprint.
And this is ours, the SKLA 5-stage plan. It gives us a clear, reliable structure for every lesson we teach. It's our roadmap to making sure everything we do is purposeful and actually works.
So, let's put some meat on the bones. Let's see how this blueprint works in practice with a speaking lesson for our Explorers age group. We're going to look at a classic, giving directions. Stage 1, the hook. Your job here is simple. Grab their attention, spark their curiosity. For this lesson, maybe you'd bring in a mysterious, old-looking map of a nearby park. It immediately creates interest and gives them a real reason to want to talk.
Right, next up is the check stage. This bit is absolutely vital. It's your diagnostic phase. Before you teach anything, you need to find out what they can already do. Ask them a simple question like, how do you get from here to here? And listen. You'll instantly spot the gap in their knowledge that you need to fill.
And now we get to the heart of it, the teach stage. This is where the discovery learning really happens. You're not going to stand there and lecture them. Instead, you'll give them a model, maybe a little bit of text or a short dialogue, and you'll ask clever questions to guide them to notice the new language all by themselves.
Okay, the test stage. Now this isn't a big, scary exam. It's just a quick, sharp check-in to make sure they've understood the concept correctly. And your best friend here is the Concept Check Question, or CCQ. These are very specific questions designed to test understanding.
So for example, you could point to the map and ask something like this. This simple question immediately tells you if they've really understood the meaning of opposite. It's quick, it's clear, and there's no hiding. Brilliant.
And finally, we have the apply stage. This is the big payoff. This is where they get to actually use the new language they've just discovered. You'd put them in pairs, give them a real communicative task, like finding a secret treasure on the map. They have to use the language to succeed.
So, let's just take a step back. We've gone from the big picture goal right down to the nitty-gritty of a single lesson. What is the one crucial thing we need to remember from all of this?
It's this. This is the transformation we're aiming for. This whole approach, using this 5-stage plan, is designed to change the student's role completely. They stop being just passive listeners waiting to be fed information. They become active, engaged explorers of the language.
And that, of course, completely changes our role too, because if our learners are the explorers, what does that make us? Well, we're not lecturers anymore. We're guides. We're the ones who draw the maps and lead the expedition on their fantastic linguistic adventure. Thank you.